Hi all, and welcome to my channel, Fred Makes Things. Today is a Sewers Club project revisit video. We are revisiting August 2021's project, I guess, sewing project, which was the Fill and Go expandable basket. If you remember, if you have seen that video, or I think I mentioned it in my year in review as well, or my Sewers Club review video. This is one of my favorite projects for my entire experience with Sewers Club up to this point. Still, I love this basket. My only criticism really was that it was too small and I wanted to make it bigger. So that's why we are revisiting it this August. So this video is going to be in 4 parts. Part 1 is the introduction. I'm going to talk about what Sewers Club is and what Sewers Club is, and a quick breakdown of the basket. I'm not sure. Part 2 is assembling the project. This is going to be a little different than usual. If you want to see how to construct the basket, I refer you back to last year's video. But I am going to talk about how I made the changes and stuff to it. Part 3 is pros, cons, and user error. And then part 4 is final thoughts and sign off. So let's just get right into the introduction. So if you don't know what Sewers Club is a monthly subscription box where for a certain amount of money you get everything you need to complete one project. Fabric, pattern, thread, notion, or some notions, clasps, things like that. You also get like fleece if you need it, like Fusible Fleece or anything. Like everything that you need to complete a project. I've been getting Sewers Club since January of 2021, and what I've been doing is on the months that I really enjoy the project, or think I could change it or improve it or do something to make it more for me, I will revisit the project. I've done it a few times. I think most months I revisit, some months I don't. Last month I didn't revisit it because I hated last year's July project and I did not want to repeat making that thing at all. I didn't even want to come near it. So instead I did a pattern review instead. So anyway, so I really like this basket. This is the original basket that I made. Right, it has this really great retro flower here. This not so great rust fabric here, and this again not so great purple fabric on the interior. It's designed so that you can tie it and make it really cute. And yeah, like I really like it. It measures 7 inches long by about 6 inches high and about, I think, 5 inches or so wide, and about 6 inches wide as well. So it's a cute but little basket, and I wanted to make it bigger. Also, like I said, I really like this floral, but I didn't like the other 2 fabrics that was used with it. So I decided to try something a little different, something slightly out of my comfort zone. But I think it'll look cool. Actually, I know it looks cool. I thought that it would look cool, and I'm really happy with how it turned out, which we will talk about in a little bit. So let's get into part 2, assembling the project. And we'll see if I can be more succinct, because I've tried filming this part a few times and it hasn't come out right. So basically the most important thing to think about with this basket is the curved template, right? You need to know your measurements off of your curve so that you can adjust your fabric sizing accordingly. So my original curve was 5 3/4 inches. And what I did is I took a piece of printer paper, right, 8.5 by 11, and I did an 8.5 inch curved template instead. So it's quite a bit larger, which I think is pretty cool, but I kind of wish I'd gone somewhere, I think, in the middle of the two. But that's for part 3. So first thing I did was make this curved template. Oh, that's actually a good way for you to see how different it is. So here's the new curve and here's the old curve. A little bit of a difference. So then from that curved template, I had to figure out what the circumference of this side of the semicircle would be so that I could make that the same size as the fabric body, right? The main body of the fabric or whatever. So I did the general circumference formula and divided it by 2, or divided it in half. So it was like 2 pi r, right, which got me like the full circumference of the circle, and then in half, which brought me to 26.75 inches roughly. I think it was like 26.7 or something. But I rounded it to the closest quarter of an inch, knowing that I'd need to adjust it later on. And then from there, I adjusted all of my measurements. So I went and looked at my cutting for everything, and some of it was pretty easy to change, right? Like all of the semicircles I already had the template for, so that was fine. I think I left the side ties the same length, or maybe I made them a little longer. I don't remember. We can check that. With the interior pocket that was made out of the rust fabric, I kept it the same depth, but I made it the width of the new body size. And for that, it's kind of arbitrary, right? The width of the body can be as wide as you want it to be, right, within reason. But the length of that exterior body piece is the important one. And that length has to equal the half circumference of your circle, right? Because they need to line up when you sew them together. So all of my new measurements went like 26.75 by 12 and a half. I made all of the widths, or the width of the body, width of the body 12 and a half. And then I had to like math off of that. If you want to have the exact same measurements that I have, I will include that in the description for you down below. That way I don't have to try to like make it make sense here. But the most important thing is no matter how you change the size of your semicircle, you have to be really comfortable with the dimension of your half circumference so that everything fits together. I also extended the length of the handles a little bit because I was making a larger basket. I wanted to have like a little bit more space in the handles. Yeah, then I assembled it just as I did, following the exact same instructions. I changed the side ties a little bit. They wanted you to go They wanted you to go 1.5 inches down, which is, I stayed 1.5 inches down. And then they wanted you to measure 2 inches out from the middle on each side. And I think I went 3 inches out from the middle on each side, just because, right, my circumference or my width of the semicircles was wider. So I wanted to make everything a little bit more wider. Just make everything sit better. I did the same thing with the handles. I adjusted the handles to make them sit a little bit wider as well, because I took the bag, or I took the size of this side of the bag from 8 inches to 12.5 inches. So I wanted to make the sides, like the handles, a little bit wider as well. So they're a little bit longer and they're spaced a little bit wider. The other, and then I think that's it. I think everything else stayed the same. Oh, and then the last thing that I didn't do was they wanted you to do a top stitch along this part here to help make the bag a little more structurally rigid, and I skipped that part because by that point I was tired. Yeah, so sorry for that babbling kind of assembly part, but if you want them, like I said, if you want the measurements for how I ended up doing this, they will be in the description box below. And now, I know you saw it in the thumbnail, but here is my finished bag. I will put pictures here too so that you can see what it looks like. The interior is this bright yellow. Love the interior. I'm not a big yellow person, but since the apron from March, I want to say, and how they had you do that golden saffron color, I like the idea of yellow. I did birds, a directional fabric for the birds, so I had to do a seam in the bottom so that you can make it make sense. So we've got the birds on the sides, and then we've got polka dots on the side, right? So semicircle polka dot. Yeah, how cool is that? And then I did yellow ties instead of polka dotted ties because I wanted to really have like a nice high contrast on the sides. I know it's hard to see everything the way that it is here on camera, but hopefully the video or the photos will help you like see it. And then we'll go back to the sides, and here are my handles. I wish I'd put a little bit of interfacing in them just to make them a little bit stiffer, but here are the handles on the sides, spaced a little bit wider. And then here's my interior pocket. Like I said, it's the same width as before, but it's a little deeper, and I off-centered the pocket stitch here to make 2 sections instead of having it right through the middle like originally suggested, just so that this side can hold my phone. I have an iPhone 12 something or other, and so that's what goes here. So yeah, I think it turned out great. I'm very happy with it. I knew I would be. Like when I saw this beautiful yellow in the birds and I found a matching yellow cotton or broadcloth, I don't remember, I was like, yes, everything is coming together. And I'm a huge fan of polka dots. So that also made me happy. So let's jump into pros, cons, and user error. There's a few of them. Pro, I like the size of the bag. I love the pattern. I love the fabric. I love this, like I said, I love this pattern anyway. I love this bag. I love everything about this bag. Con, I kind of wish I had made it a little bit smaller. Just a little bit. Like I said, probably like somewhere in between the 8.5 that I did make it and the 5 3/4 that it started out as. And that's really my only con. So let's get into user error. There's a little bit of user error. First off, I wasn't paying too close attention and I cut these main panels 1/2 inch shorter than I had originally planned. So instead of them being 12.5 inches to start, they started at 12 inches. And I didn't do anything to rectify it because I wasn't trying to follow a specific thing, right? The 12 inches was arbitrary to begin with. So now it is down to 11.5 inches, right? Which makes sense because it's a 1/4 inch seam allowance on both sides. The other con is that my circumference didn't quite match up after I cut everything. Actually, that's my third con, or my third user error. My second user error is that I didn't cut these birds straight. I thought I did. I haven't been off really in cutting in a long time, but for some reason I cut them 1/2 inch too short for the width, and also kind of crooked. So when I was sewing it all together at the end, it gave me some trouble and I ended up having to like fix some of this. And actually, if you look on this side, you can see that it bends down like a little bit. And that's because I cut it really badly when I was trying to fix it. 3 of my user error is my circumference didn't work out like it was supposed to. And I'm not sure if it's because I didn't cut the semicircles properly or what. But my measurement actually ended up being 27.25 inches. Using a measuring tape that I clipped to the outer edge of the cut circles. So in the instructions down below, I'm going to triple check my measurements and make sure that I give you the right ones. But I will say dry fit this together first to see if you have to make any kind of alteration to it. And my fourth user error, and I think this is my final one, is that I didn't buy enough yellow fabric. I only bought 1/2 a yard of yellow, thinking it would be enough, but it wasn't. I needed like 2/3 of a yard, 3/4 of a yard, because of the ties. And so the ties, one of these ties, they're all kind of like disjointed. So like this tie here has 1, 2, 3, 4 joins together to make it the right length. This tie has 1 join, and it's the same on the other side. They all, like this one's the most, but they all have like 1 or 2 or 3 different pieces of fabric that I had to join together to make it work. I don't think you can tell in the finished product, but I definitely would recommend getting more fabric for the interior, because like I was like, oh, it's just like a bit of lining, but I forgot, like it's all of the interior, right? There's the semicircles are yellow, this is yellow, and then I did the ties as yellow. So you need the most amount of your interior fabric, then you need like enough to do the 2 semicircles and the pocket out of your second fabric, and then enough to do just the just this section and the 2 straps for your other body. So I have a lot of the bird left over, I have a lot of the polka dot left over, and I have absolutely none of this yellow. And what I should have done too is just gone to Joann and get more, but I didn't. I just worked with what I had. And then also I should have done that stitch here to keep this bag a little bit more rigid. I don't think it matters really in the long run, but it would have been like a nice thing to cap it off. So now we're on to part 4, final thoughts and sign off. I don't expect there to be a lot of final thoughts because I love this bag and I made this bag and I'm very excited to have this bag. I'm thinking of making a couple of more for Christmas presents because this bag was a really big hit last year. Like my cousin had it, my mother-in-law has it, I have it, right, because we all got the same box. We all did different interpretations of it, which was kind of cool. But yeah, so I'm thinking maybe I'll make a couple of these for Christmas. It looks like people are just going to end up getting random bags for Christmas because I really like that grocery bag from a couple months ago. I really liked that beach tote that I did last month, and I really like this bag. This bag is by far one of my favorites. But what do you think? Do you like the colors I chose? Do you like the size that it came out with? Or do you prefer like the smaller guy? Like holding it like this, you can kind of really tell like the size difference. I don't know if you can in the video, but I'll post a picture of that too for you. And yeah, I think that's it. Subscribe if you want more sewing, or if you want to see more sewing content. I do sewing videos every Wednesday, mostly revolving around Sewers Club, but there are some independent projects in there as well. Next week's project is the project review for this month. I haven't even made it yet, haven't even ironed the fabric or anything. New England is going through a heat wave, so I have not had any inclination to want to sew. But I'm going to get going on that soon. Hopefully the heat will break and I'll be able to do it. But yeah, with that being said, I'm going to say like the video if you enjoyed it. And yeah, thank you so much for watching, and I will talk with you again soon.